Well, welcome. Today, Lauren, Christine, and I are going to be talking about sun transits 42 and 3. But before we dive into that, we were thinking that we might talk a little bit about just this gate that we're in right now and how strangely appropriate it is to the situation that we're living through, just the world situation as it is. And so this sense of crisis. So,
Yeah, I
is
mean, it is gate 51, it's a gate of shock. We talked about it last time, and we're definitely feeling that, right? And so I will just briefly say that I think it's a good thing to remember that in human design, gate 51 is connected to this universal love, right? And the reason we're being, experiencing these crises and shocks and disruptions in the world is to initiate us into a higher state of consciousness, right? And so I get it when we're being disrupted and it feels lousy. It's really hard to hold on to that, but it isn't for no purpose. So I just hope that when we look out into the world and we see all that we see and it feels shocking and dysregulating, that at some little place in our brain we can hold on to the idea that it is actually for our greater good at some point in a way to yet be determined.
Well, Christine, I don't even know if you have to wait for that because one of the things I experienced this week was people being really tender and willing to connect. And whether I was in our little co-op grocery store or working out in the garden and people stopping by, and everyone's experiencing what we were experiencing this week. So, without even having to get into how anyone feels one way or another, it's still tension, and I think we can relate to one another, which eventually that relating and that compassion taps into universal love. I mean, that's where it comes from.
yeah. There's something else interesting going on though too, and you mentioned it just before we came on, Lauren, about not being shocked anymore. And it's kind of like with what's going on is like, how could it not be shocking? And yet, for whatever reason, it isn't. And so this like, I mean, is this normal now? Like, do we perceive it as normal and then life goes on? Um, it, it's an amazing time. I mean, if you're sort of experimental and you're thinking to be watching what's going on and the different reactions, and at the same time, you're going, how could this have happened? You know?
Well, I think, like I mentioned last time too, like gate 51 is also the ability to absorb shock, right? To be
Mhm.
able to, so I can see as you're saying that, it's like, oh, maybe things don't feel as shocking in some ways, especially in this moment, because this energy is able to, also take some of that on. It's like, yeah, this is how the world works, and here, I'm gonna protect you a little bit from it, right? Like we are able to be more resilient in some ways. And it is also true that if you shock the system continually and repeatedly, it does get habituated. So there is that as well.
Yeah.
Um, but again, this is the energy we're coming through at this point in the year, and we will end up out of the gate of shock in I think 2 days. So on the 10th, the sun goes into gate 42, which is the gate of growth in human design, and it is a sacral energy, which I'm saying that now, and all of a sudden I'm having doubts.
Don't doubt yourself.
Yeah, yeah, no, sometimes it's good to have just because there's something about these particular gates. I'm always like, is that the gate in the root or is that the gate in the sacral? But this is the gate in the sacral. And so it is this life force energy, and it is here it's about growth, it's about cycles, it's about maturation, right? It's this energy that we all experience, this idea that we start something and then we see it through, hopefully, or not, right? And that is something to really pay attention to, I think, in between the days of the 10th and the 15th, because this energy does carry a flavor of like wanting to finish what it starts, right? And so since it's a sacral gate, to be mindful of like, do you really have the energy for starting this thing that you might feel needs to be started in this time frame, right? And again, we're in the quarter of initiation still. We've just come out of this initiatory energy in gate 51. There's a lot of like new beginning energy in the field right now. And so there may be things that just show up in this time frame that you're like, oh, I totally want to jump into that, or I totally want to do that thing. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the thing. So I would say just try to take it slow, do a little bit of waiting, see if you continue to have that response because there's so much other background energy for this newness that it's just good to take a break anyway. Just wait a little bit. You can't really go wrong with some waiting in my you know current estimation of how things are going on the planet.
Take a pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking in this sort of new things starting to pop up, and it's like getting you ready, making sure that you're going to be able to complete or have the intention of completing is in the Gene Keys. This like the shadow is expectation. And so I was just thinking about like all of the expectations that we set up and how we manage to set ourselves up for disappointment because like there's so many of them. I mean, we don't know how to complete them, or they were ill thought out in the first place. I don't know, but it's just interesting at this time of like needing to finish things. There's like, well, I'm waiting for this and I'm waiting for that, and when X happens, I'll be happy. Or um, and they're all things that we get so attached to. Then if they don't happen the way we thought, and I realize where my thinking is going here is how stuck we get in the what we think is going to come out in the end with the expectation rather than being open to what's going to arrive. And it just arrived in my mind while I was talking. How about that?
Well, that actually leads into this question that comes out of Hilary Barrett's translation of what if there were no limits? So expectations are limits. And if we think something is going to be this way, we've actually limited it from being even better or being even more wonderful. And how many times have you had that experience where you're like, that was better than I could even have imagined, right? And I think that's what this time period is for us. One is reminding us to let go of those limits. And two, experience the abundance of what happens when we do.
I really like that because I think it's interesting both of you are speaking to this. So this is a an abstract circuit, which is an experiential circuit, right? And it's actually Jupiter right now is in gate 53, and so the whole channel will be lit up for everybody from the 10th to the 15th. And part of the teaching around this experiential circuitry is we are here to have experiences, but having expectations of the experiences is where things go wrong for us, right? And this is it's so interesting that you brought that through, Lois. It's like that is where all of our pain and suffering comes from, right? So and it will be on offer quite heavily this time around because again, this channel is on, which means that all four motors are going to be defined globally. And so I would think also this is another thing to pay attention to in this time frame. There's going to be a lot of motor energy out in the world. You yourself will feel it. You may feel it from other people. And so just again, this ability to like slow down, take a pause may feel even harder, but I think might become even more valuable because of all of this background definition for everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how right now I'm in the midst of putting the first plants in this wonderful garden I get to tend. And um, I'm putting them in and with each one, like, well, it could be like this when they grow, or it could be like that, or they could teach me something altogether different. And again, I feel like I bring this up often, but I don't think there's any better way to experience these energies than when you're actually outdoors connecting with nature during that time in one way or another, whatever that looks like for you.
It's interesting that you brought up new growth because I was going to start to say something and it was about like the thing with cycles and then actually and death. And it's like, and then you started talking about new growth. And I was like, well, isn't this interesting? But this completion of cycles, and like if we don't complete the cycles, we're kind of doomed to repeat the cycles. Um, and it's like if we don't get relationships going well, or um, like we didn't hop from one partner to another partner to another partner, thinking that somehow perfection's sitting out there somewhere, and but we don't complete that maturation cycle for ourselves. Um, we do it. We get to keep doing it, and so. But there's like the other thing about these cycles is that there's I mean, this one is connected to death in the gene keys. And there's like, and it isn't just the ultimate death. It's like there's constantly in our lives, there's many deaths that happen, the same as in nature. You know, it's like there's the cycle of growth and decay, and then you come go through it again and again. But every year there's that ending of the cycle. And we have little losses all through our lives, things that didn't go the way we expected. And so, like starting to learn from those small losses, and like how do we deal with the fact that things didn't go the way we anticipated?
Mm.
Yeah, that's interesting too, Lois, because again, the polarity gate for gate 42 is gate 32, which is continuity. And that is this splenic gate of like knowing what's of value to keep or not, and to understand the nature of essentially what you're just talking about. Then it's also cyclical in many ways, right? Like we're always going through um basically growth and death cycles, right? But in the growth period, some things are really useful to hold on to and should be continued, right? Should go, should establish some sort of continuity. It's the tribal energy, and so this like traditions and things like that. But then there's a bunch of other things that we don't need, right? And so like just learning to discern between those things that are important for our growth, and then also the things that are okay to let go of, right? Like, so there is a lot of supportive energy here in this gate 32 in this, time period, as well as like, look, you can really start to look at that. Do you really need that? Do you have to be upset about that? Maybe that was its time, right? So let's just accept that for what it is, you know?
Mm.
Realizing that even if you're upset, stomping your feet probably isn't going to change anything.
Well, I think that, letting go of what needs to go and then moving forward with what's new leads me right into the Gemmo, because the Gemmo for this is Crabapple. It was the one I thought would be a good choice last year, and I'll reinforce it this year with the fact that um, there's a couple things Crabapple does really well. First of all, it is a full body detox. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, getting rid of what's not needed. But then it does something else. And that's what else I think is present in this energy of this gate is it gives you the momentum to take the next step. And often folks that need crabapple are the folks that are just hanging back, right? And they have that thing, that job they want to go for, or that relationship they want to go for, or the move they want to make, or whatever it is, but they just keep holding back. And crabapple gives that energy in the form of confidence and clarity. And I think that's one of the things that will come through with this gate is in this time of abundance, that we will also be blessed with confidence and clarity.
I like that. Um, I also just want to say before we move on to three, unless you did you have anything else you wanted to add about 42, Lois?
Well, like, the only thing I was thinking related to what Lauren was just sharing is like there's when there's change, there's like, and before anything is going to shift, things start to feel difficult. Like
Mm.
things start to feel uncomfortable. And it could be that some thought that you have had in your life forever is all of a sudden feeling too tight and controlling, and so that it's like this coming to this place of recognizing, discerning what needs to be let go. And it's interesting because it connects to something I use in coaching. It's called Theory U. And it has like when you have your place of starting, and as you gain awareness about what's not working, you come down to the bottom of the U. And sometimes people hit there with pretty hard splash, and it's hard on them. But like if you're open to it and recognizing that, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable for a while, and sitting with it and seeing what it has to tell you, it allows you to move over to where we're going in three, where things can start to come, something new, and you come up the side of the U to a new place. So it's interesting that these two uh, gates fit the U this way, side
Yeah,
by
that
each.
is really interesting. I like that. And it's also true. It's this thing about discomfort, right? This is also, I think, about our modern conditioning, right? Like we have a very strong story in our world that we should always be comfortable, right? And that, being comfortable is everything. And again, like I think about when you were talking about for some reason the my favorite little lobsters, my Maine lobsters, I think about them, right? Like you grow, like if we had exoskeletons, we would understand better that there's discomfort in growth, right? You fill up that little shell and it gets too small and you have to let that shell go and have a, start a new one, right? So you can grow more. And so it's got to be uncomfortable for those lobsters while they're scooshed into that too small shell. So um, but yeah, this gate, you're right, and stepping into the gate three, I can see exactly what you're talking about. I think that's a really interesting uh, just idea around the two of these being side by side like they are. But like I said, before I step into three, I just want to say real quickly on the 15th, which is the last day, this the sun is in 42. There is like this weird, like the moon and Mercury and Neptune will all be in gate 25, which is like a lot of energy in one space. And we'll all have, like I said, those four motors on in our system. And so I just think about the 15th of April as a day to maybe like it just may have a lot of energy. There may be like a lot of like saying the quiet parts out loud, like with this Mercury activation and just like I don't know. It I don't know. All of it, like I said, should be in service of this universal higher love, this gate 25 energy, but it may not come out that way. It may come out as shocking or hurtful or whatever. So I don't normally do this, but there's just so much going on that day. I'm just like, on the 15th of April just take a pause. Just notice that it might be kind of a crazy day.
Have a little compassion for yourself and everybody else.
Yes.
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. Um, but yeah, on the 16th we walk into gate 3, the sun is in gate 3 and the earth will be in gate 50. Gate 3 is the gate of ordering. And in the hexagram name I love, which is difficulty at the beginning. And so it is funny that we just come through this like gate of, growth and new, starting new things. And then you step immediately into the, next piece, which is, yeah, things are hard in the beginning. And so I think we may be experiencing some of that because again, we will have a lot of this initiatory energy. I'm sure Lauren can speak to this very clearly with plants, right? There's definitely a lot of that around seedlings. I think we all know that energy. But gate 3 is also a sacral gate. It's also connected, wants to be connected to the root energy. And so there is this in the channel an energy of limitation, right? Recognizing what the limits are, but working within them, and just you know just recognizing this gate 3 as um a time to really it wants change. It really does. Like this energy loves change, but it also knows that change is hard, and but there's part of it that's just like, oh, I love change, but I don't like change because it's hard. And so I think we might experience some of that kind of mixed emotions during this time.
Yeah, it's interesting in the like with the you that I used and in the coaching methodology I have, is that when we're making shifts, big changes in our lives, we move from a place like where I said where things are getting too tight and things are disintegrating, and then as we move into what's new, what's coming, we're wobbly. We really don't know quite how to be in this new space. And just the gentleness with ourselves about that, because like it's like learning anything new, you're not going to have it right away. And you're going to trip and you're going to fall. And I think we just need to laugh at ourselves.
We do. We do need to laugh at ourselves. I want to circle back to the plant analogy. I always enjoy that, but it makes a lot of sense right now. And time-wise, this is when a lot of plants are starting to grow, and seeds that were dropped over the fall and winter are starting to sprout outside. I think about, under my grow lights and my perfect conditions I try to create for them, they still struggle. And there's this period with every seedling that you're watching it and you're thinking nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And then when you're not looking, right, something happens. But often that first sprout that comes out doesn't look anything like the plant because those aren't true leaves. And you think, oh my goodness, what is going on? What is going, and it makes me think about these beginnings in us, right? It's new, it's change, it's different. It's not going to look like anything that we are used to. And I'm just watching down here. I have a tray of eggplant that I'm sprouting. Oddest looking seed to germinate. Hands down, it wins the award. Doesn't look like anything like an eggplant plant, and you're 100% sure you planted the wrong seeds or something went wrong. And I think we do this with ourselves so often, right? What is happening? I don't know. Was this how this was supposed to go or look like? And then all of a sudden, if we don't have too many expectations and limitations, the thing that is meant to be that worked through us evolves.
Trusting.
Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is really true. I love that idea that, that's every seed, almost every seedling looks exactly alike at that very first, like you don't know, right? And so it isn't like, and it is, it's really interesting to think about, like, that is what new beginnings are like, right? We don't really know what it's supposed to look like. And it really looks like nothing. It looks generic, right? And so it's kind of interesting to think about that mapping into our lives in that way. So I really love that. And it's interesting too because, gate 50 with this polarity gate it is the gate of values, and it is kind of wanting, like, it is sort of it's like the control person in the family, right? It's the person's like, these are the things that we're going to do, these are the ways we're going to do it, and this is the stuff that's important to us, right? And everybody else is like, okay, right? Like, okay. But I think about that too in this energy of like, there's this thinking of like, oh, I know what this should look like, right? So the other part of this polarity is also pushing on this idea that, oh, you should know what this change is gonna look like. And it's like, well, no, we don't yet know what that's going to look like, right? Can you just give us a break? Like, give us a few minutes, right? Let us work through this very first stage, and then you can come in and shape the values and shape where we're going with it. But, there is also that energy pushing on us, I think, in this time to like figure stuff out. Um, and I feel like there's a lot of kind of figure stuff out energy. It doesn't make sense that it would be that like that in the sacral, because the sacral is the sacral, it's the body, right? It's not the mind. Um, but I do feel like these gates carry a bit of like we need to know what we're going to do, and we need to know what direction we're going, and we need to know how this is going to work out. And so I would just kind of be watching for that sort of again, we don't know. We can't know, and in some ways we don't need to know, right? Because whatever we are thinking it might happen is rarely actually going to be the case. So let's use our energy in other ways.
I can vouch for what you just said about 3 and 50 because I have both of those in my design. And what you were just describing can drive you crazy. It just and learning to let go of all of that has been a journey, really. So, but it's so much has been going back to what's really going on, what really matters, and is this really the battle you're going to die on the hill for? Because most of the stuff just is not worth all of that energy. And that having to know and be on top of everything, that's exhausting.
Yeah, and also
Well,
like I think about the gene key too, right? Like the shadow is chaos, right? Which most people hate that word, chaos, right? And that's what the world can feel like. It does sort of feel like that right now, right? You look out at the world, you're like, oh my God, it's chaotic. But I always say, because people forget this, like chaos is generative, right? Like everything good comes out of chaos. It really just does. That's the nature of life. And so it's really hard to watch it, and it's really hard to not know where it's going. But, there should be, I think, in all of us some trust that it's going somewhere that is important for us, right? And it isn't nonsensical, even though it might look like that. There is sense there. It's not yet being revealed to us. Um, so yeah, I know it says it's a shadow, but I don't know. I kind of think chaos is really important. As an artist, and if you looked at my workbenches, you'd be like, oh yeah, chaos is pretty important, apparently, because that's how everything gets done in my shop.
And it does lead to order eventually.
mhm.
Right? So that's in that trusting because it's just the natural progression. And it's what Michael Mead uses the word chaosmos, like the sort of the coming together of the two, which feels hopeful. It's like,
But it's part of the cycle. And because you can't have order without chaos, and you can't have chaos without order. I mean, it just goes just like the seasons or anything else cyclical. So, Lois, I have the Gemma for you to help with gate 3, okay? And that's going to be ode. And so, what ode does in the face of chaos is it puts down roots to stabilize. That is absolutely the work, and I think that's the energy that's available for us during this gate. Gate 3 is we start and we will start this gate facing obstacles right away, and the first thing that we're asked to do is put down roots, stabilize ourselves. So it's just like putting on the oxygen mask, right? And I think is the equivalent, the Gemmo equivalent of putting on your oxygen mask first. It's a gift of ease. It helps you slow down and go with the flow, and it eases this weight of I have to get it right, because I think that's our greatest obstacle, isn't it?
very much. Yeah. But it goes back to what Christine was saying about trusting and knowing that even though it seems to be going wrong, and then using to just help you be in that space. Yes, someone else. the I mentioned Michael Mead before, and there's a story that he tells that just seems so appropriate to these two gates that it'd be okay if I share it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So it's called Black Dog. And in the story, there's this cave with this incredibly old woman that is in the cave. She's sitting and she's weaving this beautiful garment. It's a red garment. So she's weaving it together and she's sort of getting towards the end of the weaving. And she's trying to make some decoration around the edges and she's squishing porcupine quills with her teeth and weaving them into it to make it more beautiful. And she's been doing this for a long time. And she has this other job that she has to do is that occasionally she needs to go to the back of the cave and stir this huge cauldron that has sort of all of the elements of life in it. And it needs to be stirred once in a while just to keep things moving. And so she's she's realized that she needs to go and she sees the dog. This black dog is laying there and it's just, been quietly sleeping through the whole thing. She gets up and very slowly, because she's old, goes to the back of the cave and stirs the pot. And she comes back, and while she was gone, the dog got up, got a hold of the thread, and has unraveled this beautiful garment. And she looks at it and she picks up one of the threads and she starts to weave again with a vision of something that's going to be even more beautiful than the garment she was weaving before. And it just seems that it describes these two gates beautifully, because yes, it's a mess and I can pick up the thread and start again. So there's resilience in this as well.
Yeah, I love that. That is really I hadn't heard that story from him. That's really cool. Did you know, I guess you probably knew that gate 50 is the cauldron. Did you know that that's the hexagram?
Forgot that.
Yeah. I'm like, that's really nice. That dovetails really nicely in there, Lois. Good job.
My thought. Well, there we go again. I guess we've completed. So thank you, and we hope we'll see you next time.